everyone, and welcome to this week. We are going to dive into chapter 4. Now, I did have a optional Teams meeting today. I didn't have anyone show up, and that is fine. I am required to offer these meetings at least, I think, 2 or 3 a semester. I might offer more. I don't mind. Of course, I love engaging with my students, and so I'm going to offer them, and I'm required to offer them. However, as a student, you are not required to attend, and so a lot of times I don't have a lot of turnout for these things just because it's not a requirement, because everyone has different schedules. It's all good. That's why I will create this video for you instead. You can watch this video when you have an opportunity. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in. This week we are moving into chapter 4, learning and transfer of training. Now, I find this chapter absolutely fascinating. You're going to learn a little bit about how we're motivated, why we want to learn as individuals, and then how that process occurs, how adults learn, and then information processes theory, cognitively, how we process information. Now, it would be great if we all had the same motivation and we all had the same way we process information, right? That make my job really easy and all of your teachers' jobs really easy. But we know that adults learn very differently. And so these are some of the different theories that surround not only how we learn, but why we learn. And I think that's just as important as the how, it's why, the motivation piece behind it. I'm sure you've taken a class before where you're not very motivated in it for whatever reason. Either the information is boring, and I've been there, I've been a student myself, so I get it. Either the information is boring, it doesn't apply to you, maybe it's complicated, it's over your head, it's too advanced, it's really hard. So it's hard to get motivated when you have a lot of obstacles in the way. And so some of these theories, like reinforcement theory, expectancy theory specifically, I find very interesting. The older we get, expectancy theory basically says if you expect a certain outcome, you're going to be motivated based on that outcome. Meaning, if you know you're going to fail a test, what are the chances you're going to be motivated to study for that test, especially if it's really hard? Not very likely, right? But if you expect to do well on that test, you know you can do well on it, and it's just a matter of applying yourself, you'll be more motivated to study for that test, right? That's not rocket science. And so some of the stuff that you'll learn this week, again, it's not rocket science, but it's really interesting. And so I hope you find it interesting as well. Uh, Today, you have a couple things due. First of all, last week and into today, Tuesday, if you're depending on when you're watching this video, chapter 3 needs assessment is due today. That is the very first step in the ADDIE model. So we are moving into learning about the different steps in the different training models that we have, and needs assessment is one of those things, analyzing that very first step in that ADDIE model that you learned about in chapter 1. So you have, not only do you have to read chapter 3, but you also have your very first written assignment. Now, this week, I hope you find this interesting. I find this article interesting. Now, it is back from 2017, so you're going to read this article and then you're going to write about the article. This particular article is back from 2017. Now, I realize that might be a long time ago, but first of all, this is an article that's easy to access. A lot of the things today require subscriptions or you have to have an account for it. And so this one I have for you either in the link here, or you have the PDF. I've saved it as a PDF in case you can't get to it. But just go ahead and take a look at that article. You're going to choose between either United Airlines, Alphabet / Facebook, Uber, Equifax, sorry, Equinox, sorry, Equifax, Samsung, and Wells Fargo. Pick one of those and then write about that and answer these couple questions on what has occurred. And apparently 2017 also had a lot of scandals. So again, I realize it's a little bit outdated. That's by design. It's not that I don't want to have more update information. I actually spent a few hours last week or a couple of weeks ago trying to find a more updated article, but this was a really scandalous year, 2017. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that, and then you can answer these couple different questions based on this. Now, it is worth 50 points. So out of 1,000, is it a make or break your grade if you get it in on, if you don't get it in on time? Not necessarily, but these points do add up over time. So please make sure that you get that in timely. That would be helpful. Also, probably don't need to remind you that we do have an attendance policy and a late wear policy. Please look that over. I sent out an announcement this morning. Please make sure you look that over as well. It has a lot of important information, especially when it comes time to being withdrawn from the course. Okay, so that's basically what I was going to talk about today. I do want to, while I have a few more minutes with you, I'm going to go ahead and jump into something that is due next week. So if you go to chapter 4, learning and transfer, you have a discussion board that is due. But more importantly, you have this final project part 1 due, and this is due next Monday. I want you to click on that because we have a final research paper that is due in this class. Now, if you go over here to the final project, I do want to point out that we have a background information folder in here, and this gives you all the information that you're going to need to be successful for this project. There's a short video, well, not short, it's about 16 minutes, but I assure you, if you watch that video, it will outline exactly what you need to be, or what you need to do to be successful. Watch that video and then look at the background as well. The only thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about, and I'll say it a couple different times, this is a research paper on a training model. So you are not creating training. There are some students who kind of miss that point, and at the end of the year or at the end of the semester, they submit a paper, and that paper, that research paper, is basically a training that they created. I'm going to try to make this very clear. You are not creating a training. Instead, you are researching how to create a training, meaning the different training models. So you have a choice. Part 1 of the project is that you are going to propose the following information. So you're going to do a research paper based on this criteria. So what first I want you to do is pick a type of organization that you would create a training for. So a lot of people pick who they currently work for. If you work for a software company or manufacturing, hospitality, healthcare, whatever it is. If you don't happen to work right now, you can go ahead and pick any sort of organization, any sort of industry that piques your interest. Then what you're going to do is you're going to provide me what training you will provide. What is the training program? Is it going to be, and I have some examples elsewhere I'll show you. Is it, new hire orientation, sexual harassment training? If you're an HR person, that's obviously something that every company has to offer. So is it sexual harassment training? Is it new hire orientation? Is it training on software? Just tell me what it is that you will be training. And then the third thing is, which model will you be utilizing? The ISD model or the ADDIE model? Again, you are not actually creating a training. You are going to research how to create that. So on page, let me flip in my textbook. I think it's like really early in the chapter. Yes, page 9. One of the very first pages, page 9 of chapter 1, it goes on and discusses 2 different types of training models. So you're going to pick one, either the training design process or the ISD model, which is a 7-step process, or you're going to pick the ADDIE model. And then you're going to do research based on those 2 things. Now, I'm not going to talk about this much longer, because I do have those videos and I have everything written out for you, but please make sure that you look at this information. And then there's also a PowerPoint. This should be very helpful for you. And let me jump back to that final project. So that's due next week. Yep, right here, final project part 1, due on the 11th. You're going to give me the type of organization, the training program, and the which process you are going to utilize. And then your actual research paper down the road is just a research paper on that model, either the ISD model, 7 steps, or the ADDIE model, which is 5. Now, a lot of people want to pick the ADDIE model because it has a few less steps. It has 5 steps instead of the ISD model, which has 7. But I assure you, even though the ADDIE model has only 5 steps, that does not mean that your paper is shorter. The ADDIE model actually combines a couple different steps. So, like for instance, on the ISD model, it has step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way to 7. Step 1 and 2 is the same thing as the A for ADDIE. So they do align up. It's you're not getting less work if you pick ADDIE. So some people prefer the ISD model just because more it's clear. It's more clear for them, I will say, and it kind of breaks it out a little bit further. And then it's also easier to do the research based on that. Okay, and that kind of wraps it up. Again, look at that final background information folder. Hopefully you can see my screen, and everything should be there for you. Watch those videos. That will definitely help you out. So just to wrap up for this week, today, Tuesday the 5th, you have that written assignment due for that article. And then next week you have a discussion board, and then just that very first part of the final project. It is worth 100 points. You don't have to write a whole lot. In fact, you don't have to write more than a couple sentences, but it is worth 100 points. And I make it worth 100 points because I want to make sure that you are thinking about it, that you're starting the process. And it's worth 10% of your grade just for you to think about it, write a couple sentences, and then submit that in there. So those are in the different lesson folders. All right, I hope you have a great week. Reach out if you have any questions, and take care. Thanks.